No, I was like, get up.
I was there. I remember.
So
that was literally the day COVID started.
For sure. We went to a Post Malone concert like March 5th.
Into February.
Oh, yeah. And people were talking about COVID already. We were like, that's never going to happen.
They're shutting down the world now.
What?
Okay, let's start over. You probably think that you are better now. Better now.
Welcome to the Embracing Parenthood podcast, episode 5. My name is Nick.
And I'm Sara.
Today, we're going to be talking about parenting during the COVID pandemic. So our world got flipped upside down in September of 2019, and we had identical twin boys. Sara and I brought them home about 3 weeks after they were born, and it was hard. It was really hard. I don't know the exact timelines, but you went back to work pretty quickly, and I was working like
in the NICU.
The whole time.
Like days after they were born. I remember you were on the phone with a judge in the NICU, and I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You had no paternity leave.
No paternity leave, which is another issue for another episode, another day. But look, I mean, we had no idea what it was like to have a kid in the NICU. You know, Luke was really healthy, and Lainey was really healthy, and there was no. When we brought them home, it was hard, and we had a hard time figuring out how to balance what they needed with our regular lives.
Right.
We went on the shift schedule. We were like trying to figure out how to get them to eat, how to get them to sleep, how to balance tummy time and back time, and
they were in physical therapy too.
Yeah,
remember?
it was a lot. And honestly, as crazy as this sounds, after a few months of having them home, we were overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And both working and just didn't know what we were going to do.
Well, I had 8 weeks of maternity leave, but 3 of them were used up when they were in the NICU. So I only had 5 weeks of them at home before I had to go back to work, which happened to be right before Thanksgiving. So I was like, well, that's kind of perfect. I only have to go back to work for 3 days, and then it's Thanksgiving break. So I'll have like a 5-day weekend. And then, so it was really like I kind of got like an extra week of maternity leave.
Well, I think what you're talking about is we had this holiday thing that kind of increased the amount of time that we had with them on top of your maternity leave.
Right.
I was able to balance my schedule a little bit when we were in the NICU. I was there every day, all day.
Yeah.
But when they got out, I'm back to work.
Yeah.
And you went back to work 5 weeks after that.
Mm-hmm.
Sara had a limited amount of time to be at home with our kids, and I had like no time. I was working the whole time. Christmas was really good. I remember that. I remember Christmas being really, really good. I remember just feeling like a family, feeling like we had really hit a stride.
That was a really good Christmas.
Going back to work after Christmas was hard. And I had taken a lot of time off for the twins, a lot of time off for the pregnancy, to be there for you. And financially, we were like backed up against those things. So like we were struggling, and then COVID hit, and I'm like, what do you mean I can't go to work? What am I going to do?
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
I was afraid. I worked for a really small company locally, and I thought I was going to lose my job too. Thankfully, they just let us work from home.
Thank God.
Yeah.
We had no idea what was going to happen. And it didn't matter. We had these babies and Luke, and we got to spend every single day watching our kids grow, watching them develop all day for months.
I will never forget those memories that I have. I spent every day from like March, April, and May, before it got really hot out. every day I would take a quilt out into the front yard because the twins weren't mobile. They couldn't crawl. I would lay them on the quilts in the front yard with some toys, and Luke would come run in and out, but we would just play in the yard. Like we would just lay in the grass all day. We would go on walks. They had these painted rocks along the sidewalk that people had done, and we would go and look at all the painted rocks. And
We lived on a corner. We lived, like when you pulled into our neighborhood, there was a house on the right and there was a house on the left. And our house was the house on the left. And because it was the way that the neighborhood was situated, all of our yard was in the front.
Yeah.
We had this massive front yard, and the twins would just lay out there in the middle with you. And like I would come in and out and bring y'all food. Like you would yell at me through the front door, like, we need this. And
I had like I would play like Cody Johnson on my phone and just had music outside, but it wasn't just us. Every single person in our neighborhood was outside.
yeah.
It was like being in a time capsule back into another point in time.
It was like
when
20 years earlier.
everybody was outside all the time because but like we also weren't
But
interacting.
every day was a weekend.
Yeah, every day was a weekend. But like we were all too afraid to like interact with each other because, COVID's going to get you. So we would be in chairs we would put in our driveway, and our neighbors, we had driveway parties.
We would talk to each other like
from
drink
across the street,
wine.
but like we wouldn't actually interact within 6 feet of them because we just didn't know enough yet then. But
I don't think we knew then that we were terrified.
we were terrified. We had no
Nobody
idea.
knew. I don't think we knew then how special that time would be for us, for our kids.
It was really special. I remember because it was my 30th birthday. I turned 30 on April 1st of 2020. And I remember on my birthday, all the public playgrounds were closed. They had signs up on them that said, you're not allowed to play on them, which is crazy to think about that actually happened in our lifetime. I remember I was driving around trying to find something to do with Luke, and we stumbled upon these hiking trails in Creekside. And he didn't have the right shoes on, but we hiked for like hours through these trails in Creekside on my 30th birthday. And I have videos of it that I took on my phone. But I'm like, and if that had been any other normal 30th birthday, I would have been at work during the day and we would have come home, we would have gotten a sitter and gone to dinner. And that'd have been it. But like, what a cool memory I have with Luke exploring the town that we live in.
Yeah, we had this.
Remember you threw me a Zoom party for my birthday?
All of your friends called to say happy birthday, and like I cooked dinner, and it was nice.
We got Perry's to go.
Oh, that's right. We got Perry's.
It was good.
We cooked a lot back then.
We did cook a lot.
We cooked a lot during COVID, which was cool for us because we learned that Sara can't cook and I can.
I can't. So now I don't have to anymore. It's awesome. Ladies, pro tip. Cook really badly for the first year of your marriage and you won't ever be asked to cook again.
It's true. I do all the cooking anyway. It was a weird transition because for me, I stopped working. And for you, there was like this, what are we going to do phase? But the courts were like, nah, we're done. My clients were like, what do you mean we're done? What's going on in my case? And I'm like, I don't know, man. Don't call me. I'm afraid I'm going to get COVID over the phone. So like, I don't even want to talk to you.
I am up to my elbows in Skyrim.
Yeah. For the gamers out there, like the true gamers that are listening to this podcast, all 6 of you, Skyrim is this just awesome game where you could basically be whatever you wanted. I hadn't played it in years, like a decade, because it was the best game back in the day. Back when I was in law school. And all these people had come up with all these things you could do to it. I was like, oh, I'm going to check it out. And I had a baby sitting in my lap or sitting next to me, hanging out with me, playing video games a lot.
I didn't see you for like 3 months.
It wasn't 3 months. It was like 2.5. But still, I need to finish that game still. I don't know what happened. I don't remember what exactly made me do that. But I thought, this is my last chance in my entire life to sit.
Where I don't have anything to do. That's what you said.
Yeah. I meant that.
Yeah.
We had the most well-stocked bar ever.
Because we never drank at home. So we just kept collecting.
We didn't. We never drank. And I figured out how to make the perfect margarita.
Oh, yeah, you did.
And we
went through one of those big
El Padrinos.
The big bottles. No, it was Patron. I don't even know what's the size of it. Like the mega bottles.
You had it when we met.
I had it. Someone gave it to me as like a gift, but we went through that whole thing in like 6 weeks.
And then like 7 El Padrinos during COVID.
You would just make a picture of them like at 11 o'clock in the morning, and by like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we were pouring margaritas. And I was clean. We didn't have a cleaning lady anymore because we were afraid she had COVID. So I was cleaning our house, drinking with a Yeti cup of margarita.
It's important for you guys to know that we had a nanny and she was being safe. Like she was going to our house during the day and she was going home.
Wasn't going anywhere else.
And so we had help during the day, which I needed because I needed to work. And then COVID happened and we just stopped working.
Because we thought it was just for 2 weeks, right? It was 2 weeks to flatten the curves. We weren't going to let her go for 2 weeks and then risk losing her entirely forever. So we kept thinking it was just 2 more weeks, just 2 more weeks, just 2 more weeks.
It kept going. And so we never knew when it was going to be over. Her being there it freed us up to do
stuff with just Luke. And I don't really remember you and I doing much of anything together outside of the house because there was nowhere to go.
No, but we spent a lot of time in the pool.
Yeah, we did. We swam a lot.
In the first few months, nobody over. But after a few months, there were some friends that we knew were being safe. They were at home. They were doing their thing. So like we knew they could come over, and we had like people. We had a great pool in the backyard, so we spent a lot of time in the pool because it was by March. It was starting to get warm in Houston anyway. We had neighbors that had a house full of kids that didn't have a pool. Like we would like lock ourselves in the house and let them come over and
we
swim.
did do that.
We did a lot in a very constrained environment.
We did as much as we could given the circumstances.
I remember grocery shopping. We would go to the Kroger and mask up and just like avoid people. And
we did a lot of grocery delivery.
We did.
And curbside.
That's what I mean. Like, I think that we did, like when I left the house, I went to the grocery store. I went to the gas station. We didn't do anything else.
Mm-mm.
It was the liquor store, the grocery store.
Don't make us sound like lushes. We went to the liquor store probably twice the whole time.
I don't want us to sound like lushes, but we enjoyed COVID.
Yeah.
As a family, the time that we had together, we had help early in the morning with the kids. So we were doing the overnight feeds. We would take shifts. We were doing I think at the time it was 1 a.m. and 5 a.m.
I feel like it was more frequent than that.
In March?
I don't remember, but I just remember she would get there and I would go back to sleep for like 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
Because we were just so tired.
One of us would go back to sleep. The other one would
get up with Luke.
But he grew up a lot.
He did.
COVID. It was just a very
surreal time.
It was. And I learned a lot about just how important it is to look inward for the things that matter, to look at what you have and appreciate it. Because I can't imagine a time period where we weren't better as a family than COVID.
COVID for us was really almost, and I don't mean this to sound insensitive, but for us, COVID was a blessing because I had gone back to work right before Thanksgiving. So I was back for like 3 weeks in December and we were off for Christmas. And then I was there January, February, and then like March 1st, bam, I'm home again. And I didn't go back to work all year.
Yeah, you guys went back to work at the beginning in January the next year.
But I was working elsewhere by then.
Yeah.
It was like 8 or 9 months of working at home. So it was essentially, I got like a year of maternity leave in a way. I mean, I was working from home, but it was a very flexible schedule and I got to be home with my kids. So, I mean, there is no other circumstances where I would have been able to have been home that much with my kids.
Nowhere in the world would you get that much time with your kids that young, just as a principal.
Not while you're getting paid.
Yeah. And so that experience alone made that time period really memorable for me and for us. But it also, it taught us a lot about ourselves. Our relationship had progressed really quickly. We had struggled a lot with newborns. Being forced to be home, being forced to deal with the inability to go anywhere, to do anything, that was a challenge for a lot of people. I think what we realized pretty quickly is we didn't need anything else.
We didn't. We had a good time. I mean, we made the best out of a really bad situation. I remember like cleaning the house with really loud music on and Luke would be following me around dancing with me and handing me rags and
windows open.
Because it was we had the best weather that spring.
We did.
We had the windows open. It was cool outside.
He was on the playground in the back. We had a
swing set.
swing set in the backyard.
And that little rock wall.
Yeah. And he played on that during COVID. And as soon as COVID was over, it was...
He also was too big for it by that point.
Yeah,
but
he had outgrown it. But he was in the zone on that right when COVID began.
I'm so glad that he wasn't old enough to be into video games during COVID, because that's all he would have done.
I mean, we got a lot of time with Luke.
Yeah.
And he needed a lot of our time.
He came a long way during that period of time.
It's hard to imagine that ever happening again. But I think a lot of the principles for our relationship, the things that matter to us, come from the things that we experienced during COVID. You know, for you guys to know, Sara and I try to have a date night, you know, once or twice a month. Like we try to make that a goal. And I think it's because when we don't do that, when we just go through the motions, like we miss each other.
Yeah.
We didn't date after the twins were born. We didn't spend time together. We were just like,
because we couldn't, because there was nowhere for him to take me.
But like
everything was shut down.
When our nanny would go home at the end of the day and we would get the kids dinner and get them ready for bed, we would put them down and we would hang out.
Yeah.
And
we watched a lot of really good Netflix shows.
Oh man, that's got to be an episode that we do. We've got to talk about our shows, our favorite shows. We're not people that could probably tell you what's new and what's good, but we have some solid foundational shows. We crushed some TV.
We did watch a lot of TV.
But tequila and TV.
At least we didn't make any more babies.
We could not physically make more babies. If we could have, we would have.
Probably would have.
For sure we would have. But COVID was hard for a lot of families. And God bless you all who lost someone. It is not something that we take lightly at all. But for us, having young children, being able to spend that time together, being able to give them the experience of two parents side by side for that long at that young age, our children are better for that. I believe that.
I do too.
There's a running joke in our house where this week he's your favorite. This week he's my favorite.
It really changes every week.
Every week, one of the twins will just want the other person's attention.
Yeah.
And it flip-flops. They never want both of us.
Mm-mm.
They never want none of us. One of them wants the other one all the time.
Dude, they're usually on a good 2-week rotation.
Yeah, but it used to be like a month.
I know. That was hard. I'm like, I'm sick of you. Can I have the other one now?
Why do you hate me? And it started during COVID.
Yeah.
Because we would do something with one of them and they would really enjoy it. And so we would do it over and over again. Because at that young age, like it was fascinating for them. And we would enjoy it, whatever it was, the walkers. And golly, we had one kid that just refused to move. He wasn't going anywhere.
I have some of the best photos.
And his brother was just doing laps, crawling around. It just
shows the difference of twins. Like we would have, and I can go ahead and just say it, Logan gave no F's. He was like, I'm going to do what I want when I want to do it. And when I decide to do it is when I'm going to do it. And it's going to be fine.
Like, you know those paintings where there's like that fat guy in Rome eating grapes with somebody fanning him with like a palm leaf? That was Logan.
I'm going to send this picture to Chris to put in like in the frame to show what I'm talking about because I have it saved. But it's like, I have like 3 different pictures and we had that twin boppy and they would be in the boppy and I would put a toy in front of him and it's when they were learning how to sit up. And Landon would have the ball in front of me. He would be trying so hard to balance. And he's trying to sit up with this toy. And Logan would have the toy and he would just fall back on the bobby with it. And he would hold it and play with it over his head like, nah, I don't need to sit up. I can play with it just fine laying down. And I'm like, you lazy little, try. Like, just try. He's like, nah.
And he didn't try.
He didn't
like,
try.
He stood up like a month after Landon. He crawled like 6 weeks after Landon. He walked like 2 months.
Which was funny because
Landon.
Logan was the oldest and Logan was the healthier baby. Like he was the heavier, he was the bigger baby, but he was also the laziest baby.
Yeah.
Thankfully, he wasn't the weaker one because I don't know how he would have done if he was the weaker of the two.
But those moments, they meant a lot to us.
Yeah.
And they taught us a lot about relationships, about being together, about prioritizing that time. And, I think when I'm really busy at work now, when we're apart more than we would be normally in the evenings, we revert. Let's watch a show together. Let's
drink some wine.
Let's drink some wine. Let's drink some margaritas. Let's do the things that we learned that we really enjoy together during COVID. And I would encourage everybody to think,
What's your love language?
Long and hard about when you were idle, what mattered most to you, and find someone that matches that. Because our energies weren't synced the same way before COVID as they were after.
It got us in tune for sure.
We were in a good place. Like, we were okay. The pregnancy was really hard, and it really, really jerked us around a little bit. We weren't focused on each other. We were focused on
the babies.
And I think it hurt them, not in a emotional or physical way. It hurt our ability to be what they needed beyond just sustaining their life. Like, we were truly exhausted all the time. We were just, okay, bottle this time, diaper change. We've got to do tummy time. We've got to do back time. We were just like trying to make sure they had everything they needed. And we never looked at each other and said, what does he need? What does she need? We didn't. And we had the time to do that. COVID gave us the time to do that. COVID allowed us to look at each other again and still be wonderful parents. And I think it's my favorite time of my whole life.
Yeah, me too.
I love you.
I love you too.
So we have some goals that I think we have for our our next week when we come back and record another episode. We're going to be away for this next week, so you'll get an episode coming up right now, and you'll get an episode next week, and so we'll have a good amount of time to work on these goals.
2 weeks.
And honestly, I think the goal that I really, really, really want to work on, that I think is important for us, for the kids, thinking about COVID and how great we were. I really want to finish what I'm doing at work right now. I've been really behind, and I just want to be present more. A past goal that I had was not working late.
That has not carried over into the following weeks.
It didn't work. It didn't work that week. I didn't work late that week, but I didn't work late every night.
Not
that
every
week,
night,
which
but
I had been doing. So it didn't make a better week for us or our family. I just got less done. I was like, okay, well, I promised I wasn't going to work late, so I didn't. But I really want to forego that promise and actually work late and get caught up so that I can get into a routine that is healthy, because I miss being here every day on time, at the same time, doing things together. And I think you're under a lot of pressure to step up on those days and do those things by yourself. And I hate that. So I want that to stop. I want to consistently be here. And the way to do that is to not be behind at work and to get caught up. Just so you guys know, this is a COVID episode. I'm an attorney, and our courts were shut down for almost 6 months completely. And when they reopened by Zoom, which slowed the efficiency of the process. So cases churn slower, they move slower. And so I've been backed up for a long time. And I'm finally at a point where I can see the light, and I want to get to that light so that I can get back to my family.
So kind of in the same tune as Nick, is I would like to revise a previous goal, and that was to work out at 5:30 in the morning. You guys, I want to be that person. I really do. I prayed about it. I did it 3 times, and I'm not that person. I want to be.
Girl was asleep at like 8 p.m. every day that she woke up at 5:30.
I can't. I like my evening time. That's when I get to see my husband. That's when we get to spend time together. And like, if I'm working out at 5:30 a.m., I have to go to bed by 8:30 or 9. And if I do that, I don't see my husband. So it just doesn't work for me right now at this point in my life. So the last 2 weeks, I have not worked out at all, which makes me feel like absolute garbage. So I've got to figure out another way. And I don't know if that's working out in the evening or if I need to do better about working out with the kids. Also, side note, every time I've taken the twins with me to our gym daycare, they've gotten really sick. And this RSV season is very aggressive. So I am being extra diligent about not exposing Landon to any unnecessary germs. So taking them with me to the gym is just not an option for me right now in this season of life. So I don't know if that's like buying a jogger stroller and like taking them running with me. That'd be really hard to push two 30-pound kids though.
Nah, you got it.
I don't know if that's the answer or if it's just trying to work out at home. I don't know, but I got to figure something out. So that's my goal. My goal is to figure something out and then I'll implement it. But I am going to be in Colorado for 3 days next week for my other job. And they're hosting workout classes at 6:30 in the morning, all 3 days. If I go, we'll see. But it is available to me.
We could probably find a bike that has a double-seated pull.
Oh, too bad we didn't just sell one of those.
It was a infant single,
It was
double
a
seat.
double. They could have fit in it. We just sold it.
No, they couldn't have fit in that thing.
Okay.
You're crazy.
Anyways,
Anyway,
those are our goals.
We will talk to you guys in a couple of weeks. Thank you for
2
listening.
weeks.
Sarah is going to do a bunch of marketing things right now. Go.
So don't forget to check out our product, The Embrace, www.theembrace.com. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at The Embrace Official. Our podcast Instagram is at Embracing Parenthood. Don't forget to follow along and
Subscribe.
yeah, you heard it here.
We'll talk to you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye. That's not right. We had
0-3.
We had identical twin boys. I'm freaking terrible with dates. We had identical twin boys. I swear to God. I don't know what to do.